Okay, welcome back to Key Reader devlog number 2. In this one, let's jump in and see what we got. First of all, the coding video format. Big ideas, demo of it working, code, and what's next. So what's our big idea here? What and why? This MR is all about, we generated the screens for React Native and added navigation between them. We also generated the React Native project because we had nothing before except for documentation. So all we have is screen placeholders and navigation between them. The purpose of this is to flesh out what the app will look like. So we have a placeholder for each screen. Now it's just a matter of dropping in components, and then we have a working prototype that does nothing. We have listeners for the buttons that maybe print console.log or something like that. So we're basically laying the groundwork here, same for the next video, and it's just the initial setup. Here are the screens from the previous video. You could pause it and take a look, but these are all in the docs folder as well. The Mermaid source is available, so nothing new there. So let's jump into a demo of what we've got. Okay, so here we are in the example app. There is a README in the client folder that tells you exactly what you need to do to get started. So I just followed these instructions. I said Expo Web in the client folder, and it launched Expo. So we have our app running on localhost 19.0.0.6, and you can also see my IP within my local area network there, but that's not a big deal. So if you go to localhost 19.0.0.6 in your browser, you will see the home screen, hello world. That is actually right here, screen/homescreen.tsx, and we have navigation to add books and library. So we have add books, we have the library, which lets us choose a book, and then we have reader and listener. Now library will eventually have a list of books, and each book will have its own choose book command that passes a specific ID or whatever, so you can change books, but that doesn't matter. This is everything that we have so far. We just have a few screens with buttons to navigate between them, and that's it. Now we can look at the merge request on GitLab and talk about the code. So to access the merge request, just go to gitlab.com/pagekeytech. We'll go to the key reader repository, and we'll go to merge requests, and it'll probably be under merged for you when you see this, but here's my draft merge request, and I have a lot of changes here. What do we have? Well, we generated the entire Expo project, so all these new files that you see weren't actually written by me. They were generated by the Expo init command. But everything in the screens folder I did write, as well as app.tsx and the two readmes. So the readme at the top level just points to the client readme, and the client readme gives instructions on how to install everything. So once you have everything installed, you can play around with the code. App.tsx, so this is the core of our application. It's like the entry point, and this short snippet of code sets up a navigator, a stack navigator, and that's what's giving us that back button. So every time we navigate to a screen, it's pushing that screen onto the stack, and when we hit the back button, it pops it back off of the stack and returns to the previous screen. So this just sets up all of our screens. I'm pretty sure this root stack param list is for arguments to screens, which eventually we'll need that for choose book. We'll need to pass which book we want to choose or something of that nature. On the bottom here, we just have a list of screens with their name and which component they're actually using. And up top here, you'll see we're importing components from the screens folder and some React Native stuff that was built in. I had to install both of these packages using Yarn as well. So what do these screens actually look like? These components that we're using for the screens, they all pretty much look the same actually. If you go to add books screen, actually let's start with the reader screen. So you have some imports from React Native, you import the stack params list and the native stack stuff, whatever. Boilerplate to set up the screen. Here's your component, which is really just a function that accepts props, and in those props you have a route and a navigation. The route, I would assume, is just, I don't know, where you are currently. Maybe it's a screen name or something. The navigation is the important one because that gives us something to navigate to new screens. In other words, to push screens onto the stack. So the reader screen just says hello reader. There's nothing there except for a text element. Same for the listener screen, nothing there. The screens that are passing, that are actually navigating, I don't know what's going on here. Same for the add book screen, but you'll see some of these screens have navigation between the other screens. So hello choose book, we have a button that says reader on it, and when you press the button, it executes this function that says navigation, navigate to the reader screen. So this string reader we have in app.tsx, and you'll remember that that points to the reader screen component. So what does all this mean? Basically, we have some buttons set up, and they navigate. That's all you have to worry about. So that's pretty much all the code for this. Hopefully future merge requests will not have so much nonsense in them, like a 6,000 line lock file, or all these other files that aren't related. Really, for this merge request, just worry about the screens folder, app.tsx, and the 2 readmes. So that's all we got for this one. So what is the next step with this project? As we laid out in the project plan and the pitch, all that stuff in the first video, after we lay out the screens, we're going to add components that don't do anything, but they look and are laid out and contain all the text and button elements that we need to accomplish the goals of this project. So that's going to be pretty exciting because we have a software engineering intern. Eric just started with PageKey, so this is going to be one of his first tasks. He's going to tackle how to create these components and add them in to the UI in a way that makes sense. And we'll be hearing from Eric and from me on this in a future video to implement all of these various components in KeyReader. So looking forward to that. Here's the detailed view. This was all in the first video. Feel free to pause it or go back to the first video if you want more of an explanation. Here's some wireframes for the reader and the listener. And that's it for this quick devlog of KeyReader. Thanks for watching.